Hi, welcome back to the newest video snippet from Angels in Syrup, the video book. We're going to read the second part of chapter 2 in just a minute after this exciting commercial announcement. If you look in the comments section underneath this post, you will find a link to the Amazon page where you can purchase a copy of this wonderful book. You will never forget it, I promise you that. If you choose to just continue watching the videos, that's excellent too. Tell your friends. Okay, here we go. Back to chapter 2. 5 minutes later, Dave reached Mr. Smith's house, walked up the path, and knocked on the front door. A minute later, the door was opened by Mr. Smith, who said, "Dave, I fixed your mower. Come on around to the garage and I'll show you what was wrong with it." Dave turned to walk to the driveway and Mr. Smith closed his door. The two men met in the garage. "Dave," Mr. Smith began, "when you mow your lawn, do you look where you're going?" Dave could only answer, "What?" "I had to adjust the mower blade. It was hitting the deck. That's what happens when folks mow rocks or big tree roots. It's easily fixable, but you've got to be more careful. Otherwise, you could knock the blade out of alignment and mess up the engine, too." Dave looked at the floor of the garage and said, "Oh." "Well," Mr. Smith said, "no real harm done. Here you go." "What do I owe you, Mr. Smith?" Dave sheepishly asked. "Well, the next time you stop by," the old man smiled and said, "bring a six-pack of Schmitz and we'll figure it out." Dave smiled then, too. "That's the best deal in town, Mr. Smith, thanks," and wheeled his mower out of the garage, down the driveway, and onto the sidewalk to push home. When Dave and his lawnmower came to the big old oak tree, Dave looked up for the pretty lady. No one was sitting in the tree. 15 minutes later, the lawnmower was safely stowed in the garage, and Dave was sitting at the little table in his kitchen, slowly sipping another cup of coffee and trying to fit the blonde woman in the tree into his understanding of the world. Dave really liked the fact that the woman had lifted her drinking horn to him and then smiled at him, but other than that, she wasn't within 5 miles of jibing with anything that Dave accepted as normal, natural, or sane. Dave finished his coffee, rinsed out the cup in the sink, and put it in the rack to dry. Then he decided that he was hungry. Bast demanded to be let out when Dave left the house. He planned to walk to Mushi's, the best deli in town, and the one with the biggest sandwiches. So the walk to the restaurant would serve as his healthy hors d'oeuvre and dessert. He was certain that Bast would be waiting for him when he got back. The walk to the other side of town was uneventful, and somehow Mushi's wasn't crowded. That was a miracle. Dave got into line, placed his order, and waited for the efficient guys behind the counter to hand him his plate with a pastrami sandwich on seeded rye and its obligatory kosher dill pickle and a styrofoam cup of Dr. Brown's cream soda. It didn't take long. And Dave turned around to look for a table. And over in the corner, there was Harvey, the angel, waving to Dave, inviting him to share his table. Dave shook his head in disbelief that was rapidly becoming his new reality and walked over. "Dave," Harvey said as Dave sat down, "good to see you. I should have expected to run into you. You've got great taste in sandwiches." Dave noticed that Harvey had ordered the same sandwiches he had but was drinking seltzer. "It's my favorite restaurant, Harvey," Dave told the angel, "but I don't usually get here for lunch." "Well," the angel replied, "if you're so sick that a Mushi's pastrami doesn't make you feel better, you should be in the hospital." That should be their slogan, Dave offered. Harvey laughed at that and took a sip from his cup. So you're an angel," Dave began, finding it difficult to believe that he was sitting next to an 8-foot-tall glowing creature with wings, eating pastrami sandwiches and actually asking the being that question. Harvey chewed a bite of his sandwich in his mouth, swallowed, took a sip of his seltzer. "Yup," he said. "My angel," Dave continued. "That's a little possessive of you, Dave," Harvey chuckled. "But no, I'm just an angel. No one in particular's angel. And the Valkyrie in the tree doesn't belong to you either." Dave had just begun to chew a bite of his sandwich when Harvey mentioned the angel in the tree, and Dave inhaled in shock and began to choke. Harvey sat very still as Dave's face grew redder and redder before he asked, "Heimlich?" Dave coughed a little chunk of sandwich out onto the table. He breathed in and then out, and then in again, and then out again. He took a sip of the cream soda and swallowed, and then he furtively placed his napkin over the glob of sandwich he had coughed up and wiped the chewed food off the table. Dave looked at Harvey. "Oh, that's just Frist. She's an angel too, but the Vikings call the angels of the Aesir Valkyries. She's pretty cute, huh?" Dave didn't know what to say, but he nodded that the newest celestial being in his life was lovely. Harvey went on. Her name means shaker in Icelandic. Well, actually, 12th century Norwegian. And she always carries a drinking horn with her. She likes her mead, Harvey chuckled. Snorri Sturluson knew her and wrote about her back in the day. I'm glad that you've met. She was 50 feet in the air when she waved to me, Dave explained. But you said that angels don't have he's and she's. Yep. Dave realized that that conversation would get him nowhere. So he asked, so where do all you angels come from? Around, Harvey said and took a sip of his drink. Around where, Harvey? Dave asked. Just around. Dave made an exasperated expression. Let's just say, Dave, that we're here. When we want to be somewhere, we are. Harvey took another bite of his sandwich. So what? Dave had to know. You're from the astral plane, the spiritual realm? Nah, Dave, Harvey replied. We're definitely not spiritual. We're just celestial beings. Although Aristotle had it partially right. Huh? Dave asked again. Aristotle, Dave, Harvey said, the Greek. He figured out that there were two realms in the universe, the terrestrial, that's the earth, and the celestial, the heavens. He didn't know about the zillions of other earths that are scattered throughout the heavens, but they are their own terrestrial realms. He thought that the terrestrial realm was made up of 4 elements, earth, air, fire, water, but there are 143 more that he didn't know about. There are 118 elements, Harvey, Dave interrupted. Harvey laughed. No, Dave, there are 143. He was wrong about the ones he thought that he knew. There are another 25 you humans haven't found yet. Y'all might eventually happen upon them. Discovering new elements is kind of like Where's Waldo of physics. Sometimes it takes a while to see what's right in front of your nose. Dave opened his mouth to add something and then, with a confused shake of his head, thought better of it. Aristotle also thought, correctly it turns out, that the heavens are made of something else entirely, ether. Ether is everlasting and immutable. It has always been and it always will be just like it is. Everything changes, Harvey, Dave added. You and Toddle would have gotten on like a house afire, Dave, Harvey said with a laugh. He decided that change can only be understood through its atla, the thing that caused it. He said something like there can be no knowledge of a thing until its why has been understood. Dave made a face. He felt that something was filling up the room and that as it came closer to overwhelming him, whatever it was that was crowding its way all around him was making it more and more difficult for Dave to breathe. Harvey seemed to understand this and concentrated on his sandwich and seltzer for a few bites. Dave took a sip of the cream soda and a bite of the pastrami. As he chewed his sandwich, he could feel his heartbeat slow down. Harvey looked at Dave in the eye. Okay, he asked. Dave just nodded and took a bite of the pickle. When Dave had swallowed, Harvey asked, should I go on? Dave nodded again. Okay, the angel said, here we go. A thing's why is its cause, its reason, you could say, and Toddle decided that there were 4 terrestrial causes. Material, what it's made of, formal, the kind of thing it is, efficient, the creator of the thing, and the final, a thing's cause or reason to be, but that's just true for terrestrial beings. Things are different in the celestial realm, Harvey continued.